All right, folks, welcome back into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. And Carl, we are back after a little one-week hiatus for the NFL draft. We both headed out to Orchard Park there, covered the draft, chatted up with Brandon Bean a little bit, but we are now back with the high school sports. We got a couple weeks left until the PGA Championship where we take another break, but it's good to be back talking some Section 5 sports here.
Yeah, it's back. It's good to be back, man. I wish earlier this week I was going to go cover some ball, and then boom, lightning happened. Monsoon went through Rochester really fast. So I wasn't able to catch anything this week. But yeah, I'm excited just to get back out there and see the kids. You know, lacrosse is one of my things now. Like, I wasn't really exposed to it growing up, but now I like it. You know, the boys, physical, you know, I swear it looked like I hurt out there. And the girls are so skillful out there, especially up here in Section 5. But nonetheless, with all the other sports as well, especially softball and baseball, I'm excited. Now that this rain is hopefully passes by, I think that's what Snyder said the other day. I'm excited to get some more spring sports action.
Yeah, and we'll get into little boys lacrosse talk. I saw a couple games. But just on your note of the physicality, I just want to point this out. I feel like the most unhinged you can be on a high school sports field is when a lacrosse player is clearing the zone. They're about to cross the midfield line. The defender is literally just allowed to murder you as you're running by, like full one hand, just whip it as hard as you can. I don't know how we've allowed that to happen. And I feel bad for the people who have to absorb it. I feel like that's also a lot of just anger getting out from the defense after they clear the zone there.
Look, I love it. When I got the camera right there, I just go like, ooh, like it kind of reminds me of a little bit of football. But I mean, it's totally different than the girls, which I had to get adjusted to really fast. I'm like, why the girl? I'm like, wait a second, they don't have the pad, so they better not be moving like that. But it's definitely unique, and you got to catch that up close and personal to see what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I guess we'll do a little bit of draft talk as we're away for a week. Just Carl, your initial reactions on how the Bills did on the draft as we went out and covered it this past week. They got, Dalton Kincaid in the first round, maybe a guy that no one really penciled into the Bills, and probably because a lot of people thought it was going to go a little bit higher, but some people were thinking tight end. Just your overall thoughts on the draft here.
I thought it was good. I mean, I wouldn't give it an A+ by any means, but if you came into this draft with two ideologies and two ways you wanted to attack it, either A, protect Josh Allen, or B, get someone to throw him the ball to receive his passes. And they accomplished both in the first two rounds with two really good value picks, like you said, Kincaid, and then Osiris Torrance, the guard, in the second round. The third round pick is a little bit of a head scratcher. Second year in a row, they've picked an undersized linebacker. But maybe that's the way the NFL is going with how things are going in terms of speed. But all in all, I think Bills Mafia in general should be happy with how last weekend in general turned out. And it'll be interesting to see if these adjustments help out day one, because this Bills team is ready to win a Super Bowl right now.
Yeah, definitely. I like the draft. Like you mentioned, a lot of questions, how does Ken Dorsey use primary pass catching tight end? How does he use two tight ends? What does this mean for Ryan Bates, Osiris Torrance? I really like the Osiris Torrance pick. I mean, you get a guy that most people thought would potentially be their first round pick in the second round. You got to like it. And then, like you mentioned, Dorian Williams, the undersized linebacker. I think now the question is kind of more, what does that defense look like in terms of, maybe they have two Milanos out there, Milano and the Milano clone. Maybe that's the way McDermott wants to run this defense. Now he'll be the one calling the shots. So we'll see how it all turns out. But I thought Bills fans can be fairly pleased with what they did in the draft. But as we all know, not much you can judge about a draft a couple weeks after. We'll see what happens a couple years down the road. But we do have a lot to judge on the Section 5 slate. We've got our first slate of state rankings that we can talk about here with our break. The New York State Sports Writers Association has put out 2 weeks of state rankings, both for boys lacrosse and for softball. Those are the only two sports that they put out the state rankings. I have not seen any girls lacrosse state rankings. I have not seen any baseball state rankings. I know that the Max Preps does their formulas, but that you can't really judge that too much. So if there is a state rankings that we don't know about, by all means, let us know. I know volleyball, they have their own coach association who does it, and we found that. So if there's anybody else we're missing, by all means, tell us. But we've got the boys lacrosse state rankings first. As always, a lot of Section 5 representation in these rankings. And we'll start with Class A, where, Section 5 has plenty of teams up there. Section 11 is apparently the best lacrosse section in the entire world. They've got 4 teams in the top 10, so watch out for Long Island. But we do have 2 Section 5 teams in the rankings. Pittsford at number 13, McQuaid at number 20, and then Penfield receiving votes. So I want to talk about Pittsford real quick first here. I saw them play Victor right down to the wire 2 days ago on Tuesday. Victor ended up winning in overtime. Pittsburgh got out to a really good lead. They were up 6-2 early in the second quarter. They could not score the rest of the game. Victor held them scoreless in the second half, most of that second quarter in shutout. So an impressive effort by Victor. Of course, we'll talk about them in the Class B state rankings. But if you want to look at the team that's the favorite in Class A right now, I think it has to be Pittsford. They, like we just mentioned, they played Victor really close to the wire. They beat Irondequoit 8-6. They beat Penfield 9-6. McQuaid is definitely going to be probably their biggest competitor. McQuaid has had a pretty good start to their season. However, they did just lose to Hilton 11-4, which I thought was really surprising. You really never know what Hilton squad you're going to get to show up on any given day, because they can either, be a bottom feeder, or they can, beat McQuaid on a given day. They can play Canandaigua to overtime, or they can lose by 12 to Pittsford or 8 to Irondequoit, which they've all done this season. So I don't know what to make of there. But we've got 2 teams in the Class A rankings who are both very feisty this year and could potentially be setting up a good championship game down the line.
Yeah, I saw Pittsford earlier this year against Penfield, and once again, that defense was solid in that outing, so I'm not surprised that they were able to keep Victor to a low total. But this is a balanced squad. I mean, you look at their stats. I mean, they got a bunch of guys in double digits. Avery Valenti, Rex Ketcherling leads the way. My man Jackson Green, once again, saw him on the lacrosse field. What sport does he not play? He's going to be actually going to, I believe, Princeton for football, so shout out to him. But Pittsford, solid ball club. Did they win last year? I don't think they won. It was
Fairport last year, yeah.
Yeah, Fairport got the job done last year. And so is it Pittsburgh time to rise to the top? We'll see. But that Victor, when I was preparing for this, that Victor result definitely shocked me. I thought Victor was like far and away, cream of the crop, and Pittsburgh like, hold on, this is not what you think it is, all right? So that was exciting to see, and I know it was a loss for Pittsburgh, and they obviously thought they could get a job done, but they can take some solace in the fact that they're trending in the right direction this time of year.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, no sectional titles since 2017. They lost in the championship game to Fairport last year, so they are hungry to get back on top. And as we mentioned, going down to Class B, where the class of the state is right here in Section 5, the Victor Blue Devils, of course, at number 1 in the state. And they are also nationally ranked as well, 23rd in the entire country, so getting some national recognition as well. The Victor Blue Devils undefeated in Section 5 so far this season. Their only loss this season is to Calvert Hall down in Maryland, who is ranked just above them in the national rankings. They got a really impressive win over St. Mary, who is number 15 in the country. So Victor getting it done out of state as well. They've passed all their tests so far this season, but it hasn't been like you mentioned, it hasn't been far and away out in front. They only beat Penfield by 4, which is, it's still impressive to beat Penfield by 4. They took Pittsford to overtime. They're going to have some tough tests coming up, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Victor, Canandaigua, of course, coming up next week, so that'll be a good one. But Victor, taking the top spot right now.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think they got like 98 kids committed to play in college next year. This is a really, really talented ball club. But, I mean, we've talked about it with other teams and other sports. I mean, you see a team like that, all the love that they're getting, you're going to step your game up. I mean, that's your time. That's your opportunity to shine. We were talking about that, I believe, a couple of weeks ago with McQuaid's baseball team, how they always play out-of-section teams. And then I believe a couple of Section 5 teams took it to them. They were like, you know what? Like, hold on. Like, Section 5 is where it's at. You don't need to go everywhere, right? And I'm sure these other teams see all the love that Victor gets, and deservingly so. Like, Victor, they deserve all the praise and flowers that they're getting. But just as a competitor yourself, you're like, okay, this is my opportunity to shine, to get some love. I can get on Channel 8. I can get on primetime 585 for a big game against the Blue Devils. But I'm not surprised at all that they're the top team in Class B.
And I do want to highlight their face-off man, Sam Ritchie. In that Pittsburgh game, 16 wins, just one face-off loss. So it is tough to get scored on when you have the ball, of course. So the latest in a very long line of talented Victor face-off men. And then we look at the rest of Class B, where we have 2 teams in the state rankings. You've got Canandaigua at number 9, and you've got Spencerport at number 19. And I think that is fair. I think those 2 teams are kind of in tiers of their own. They're kind of in one team tiers of their own behind Victor there. Canandaigua did play Spencerport so far this season. They beat them 6-4. Irondequoit should be knocking right on the door there. They're not in the honorable mentions, but I think Irondequoit's in that conversation as well. But I think Canandaigua and Spencerport, 9 and 19 respectively, that's pretty fair. Moving down to Class C, where HFL is the only team ranked in the Class C rankings at 18th overall. But the 2 teams that are honorably mentioned are going to just really battle each other to the death to try and win this Class C championship. Honeoye Falls, of course, as we mentioned, at 18. Then Livonia Avon and Palmac both receiving honorable mentions. Anytime that triumvirate of teams play, you're going to get a good one. HFL just took down Livonia Avon 7-5 a few days ago on April 29th. They're going to play Livonia Avon again on the 6th. They will not play Palmac on their season so far, but Palmac did take on Livonia Avon. Livonia Avon beat them. I'm pulling up the scores right now. So it does seem like HFL has a little bit of a head up on the competition. Yep, Livonia Avon beating them beating Palmac early in the season 8-6. And I just saw that HFL team play against Irondequoit. They were really good. It was a really good game, well contested game. HFL has as we mentioned on our last podcast, has a very talented face-off man as well, getting it done for the Drew Angelo, getting it done for the Cougars. But that's going to be. We always talk about these really fun sections. Class C boys lacrosse, that's going to be a really fun section this year.
Yeah, hopefully there's a fight for the 1 seed because you don't want to have to play 2 incredibly tough games in the sectional tournament. And like you mentioned, the Irondequoit loss was definitely, obviously they won't play Irondequoit in the postseason, so that's just a measuring stick. And then also losing to Canandaigua by, I believe, 1 goal, 7-6. That's nothing to sneeze at at all. HFL team is for real, as we alluded to in the previous weeks.
Yeah, HFL is also going to have some tough tests coming up later tonight against Penn Yan. Then they play Livonia Avon on Saturday, so they're going to have their work cut out for them. As you mentioned, that 1 seed is going to be really valuable in that tournament. And then down in Class D, the Penn Yan class, as it's been known for many years. Penn Yan, of course, taking the top spot in Section 5 at number 8 in the state rankings. However, the Aquinas, Little Irish, right on their tails in the state rankings at number 9 in the state. Aquinas hasn't played a ton of Section 5 opponents. They did beat Schroeder and Greece so far this season. Some nice wins, but nothing to get too worked up about. They do have Livonia Avon tonight, which is going to be a really good test for them. They're going to play them later in the season. They're going to play Brighton as well. So Penn Yan and Aquinas are only 2 top-ranked teams in the state. Marcus Whitman and Newark also receiving votes in this rankings.
I saw that Aquinas game against Schroeder. Physical ball club to be a Class D squad. Will it be interesting to see how they match up with Livonia Avon? Is that correct? Yes, Livonia Avon tonight. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how that result turns out.
A lot of great teams here in Section 5 boys lacrosse, as always. Same for softball, where we have plenty of teams in the state rankings. Starting off with Class AA, Schroeder, our top spot, no surprise there at number 5. But as we mentioned before, it is not just Schroeder in Class AA. You've got Fairport on their tails. You've got Victor. You've got Brighton, who is no small test. Thomas is down in Class A. We'll talk about them a little bit. But Schroeder, the top spot. But there's a lot of teams gunning for him, Carl.
Yeah, I think what we talked about in the beginning of the year, what they're bringing back and how, star-studded their roster is. I think these other teams are like, hold on, we got some ladies too that can bring something to the plate. Schroeder's still legit, don't get it twisted. But these other teams as well are like, hold on, we'll catch them in tournament time and we'll get them when it matters most.
Yeah, Schroeder losing that game to Thomas, but I believe, as I pull up their schedule right now, they do not have a loss to a Section 5 Class AA opponent. That is correct as I look it up now. They took care of Penfield. They took care of Fairport so far. They took care of Victor early in the season. So Schroeder's still getting it done, but maybe not far and away at the top. Then in Class A, you've got a trio of really talented teams. You've got Thomas, Irondequoit, and Mendon, both really three talented squads with some really good pitchers. That's the main thing. You've got Irondequoit, Marlena Cartagena. You've got Mendon, Lily Goldberg, who just about strikes out every batter that she faces when she's out there. So that's a really strong group of 3 teams where it might just come down to, come sectional playoff time, getting like one hit on one of these pitchers here.
That's all that matters that time of year, right? Who's in a little circle, who's hot that time of year. I remember last year, Molly Piccolo did the same for Schroeder last year, all the way to Long Island for a state championship. Not saying that's what these teams have to accomplish for that to come true this year, but one of these 3 pitchers get a little hot, get a 3 or 4 inning stretch where you strike out the side. That's all you really need.
And then down in Class B, and we don't see a lot of these teams a ton, so but I just really need to highlight Wellsville at number 3 in the state, primarily because they beat Schroeder. Wellsville, a Class B school, able to take down Schroeder, a really impressive result there. I tried to get some of their players on Section 5 best in the last week, just because they had so many different players doing so many different things. And it's just different players every time. They like have a different player hitting a home run every. Oh wait, actually that was Letchworth I was thinking of, but still, Wellsville, 11-8, they beat down Schroeder. They did not report their stats, unfortunately, so I cannot go too into depth on how they beat Schroeder. But still, shout out to Wellsville beating Schroeder there.
Well, I mean, shoot. I mean, Thomas is one thing. That's a rivalry game. That's what you can rationalize that a little bit. I guess classes don't matter. They saying, look, the ball the same, the bat the same size. What's up? Man, shout out to Wellsville. That's a very impressive win, especially of a Schroeder team that wants to accomplish big things this year again.
They're the only team in the top 10 in Class B, Waco and Batavia at 19th and 24th, respectively. Then moving down to Class C and D, some teams getting some love here. Boulevard Richburg at number 3, Calamum at number 10 in the state. As I mentioned before, Letchworth with their big and powerful bats at number 15 in the state in Class C. And then down in Class D, we've got 6 teams represented, 2 in the top 4 with Keshequa at number 2 and Honeoye at number 4. So we've got a lot of talented small school balls here in Section 5 as well.
Yeah, I saw that Calamum team play against Avon. They got a bunch of batters, a bunch of hitters up and down that lineup. Exciting team to watch, and they can put up a lot of runs.
We move on to our segments. We're going to skip Team of the Week because we just talked about a whole lot of teams that could be Team of the Week, so we're going to get a little bit redundant there. But we've got our Eyes on You team, as we mentioned before, renaming the segment a little bit. A team that, if we were to see their results or their stats, that Carl Jones would have to give them the Von Miller eyes. So, Carl, your Eyes on You team for the past week or 2, as we've taken 2 weeks off here.
I got to go with the Little Irish Aquinas girls lacrosse, mainly because on Monday, I was picking between a game I was going to go to. It was either going to be Aquinas and Waterloo Marcus Whitman, and then another game that got rained out. Unfortunately, the other game got rained out, so I wasn't able to go to. Aquinas trucked along and played, and they took down Waterloo Marcus Whitman 12-11 in OT. And then I started looking at their resume a little bit better. They're 9-2 on the year. But, I mean, anytime you talk about the Little Irish, the Hinchcliffe sisters, I mean, they're just legit. Anytime you look at the box score, 4, 5, 6 goals on any given day. We've had Sienna as player of the week. I think Savannah was in Section 5 best, if not this year, then last. Sienna, just to highlight some of her stats, 52 goals this year. That's tied for first in Section 5. 76 points. That's in the section as well. She's going to play at Akron next year for lacrosse. Down there in Class C, so they're gonna be playing against Palmac in sectional play. They did take an L to Palmac early in the year, but it was a 6-4 game. Aquinas, legit ball club. I'm locked in. I'm trying to see what they do the rest of the way here on out. They're gonna have a game against Mercy next Monday. They took an L to Mercy earlier on in the year. Obviously, they won't play them in sectional play, but you want to see how you can bounce back from a loss like that. But man, Little Irish, y'all got my eyes for sure.
Yeah, Mercy having a bit of a bounce back season as well, so that should be a really good game. My eyes are on the Fairport softball team. I mentioned them a little bit earlier in the show. Haven't had the most consistent season, but when they are on, they are on. And specifically, they were on about a week and a half ago when they took down Thomas 14-0. Thomas, if you forgot, they just beat Schroeder 14-0. They took down Thomas. Amanda Linenbrick in the circle with 2 hits allowed. You hold that Thomas team to just 2 hits. That's impressive. Nicole Allen, 5 for 6 in the game with a triple and a home run. And Lana Wood, 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs. And we do have some connections to the Thomas softball team. Our GM has some daughters on the team. And Thad, when I saw this result, I mentioned to the fan, he's like, yeah, I talked to Wendy, our GM. She's like, yeah, they just didn't have it. There wasn't no sickness, no suspensions, no, someone's cleats weren't tied the right way. This was just Fairport beating down Thomas on that given day. So Fairport, a team, while they haven't been able to replicate that results against some other teams, they lost to Schroeder 8-3, as I mentioned. But Fairport is a team that certainly you've got to have your eyes on.
14-0 is one thing. 14-0 against a team who we think can go pretty far this year. Yeah, that's impressive for sure.
And then we move on to our game of the week segment. Some games that are really going to have some Section 5 implications for the postseason and bragging rights, things like that. Carl, your game of the week for this upcoming week.
I don't have to jazz this game up. Canandaigua, Victor boys lacrosse. Both teams are 10-1. A rematch of last year's, I believe, Class B semifinal where Canandaigua took them down in the postseason. I mean, what else do I need to know? What else do you want? I mean, you got probably 2 of the best teams or the 2 best teams in Section 5 Class B, regardless of, actually forget Class B, in all of Section 5. All the stars over there on Victor, high-scoring affair. Canandaigua slowing the game down, playing the game at a turtle pace. This game, I believe, will be at Victor again. I believe it was at Victor last year as well. I'm excited. I want to see who comes out on top. This game will be next Monday for all those who maybe want to follow it or even go out there. Should be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, Canandaigua, after that, they play Pittsburgh, so they've got some really tough tests ahead of them. And the thing that is interesting about Canandaigua, I saw them play against Penyan this year when it was 6-5. It's not like it's a team where, they're just trying to run out the clock, basically. Like, it's, they're just really good at defense, and that's how they get in those low-scoring games. So it's not like it's going to be a boring game to watch, even if it's a low-scoring game. So Victor Canandaigua should be a great one for sure. I'm going to the baseball dime with my game of the week. Schroeder against Hilton. That is on May 10th on a Wednesday. 2 teams that are red hot. Schroeder on a 7-game winning streak. They just took down McQuaid. As we mentioned, McQuaid suffered a pair of losses here in Section 5 play. Schroeder on a 7-game winning streak. The Hilton baseball team on a 4-game winning streak. And in those 4 games, they have allowed a grand total of 0 runs, pulling off the Palmac special, if you remember from last year. 4 straight shutouts for the Hilton baseball team. Both of those teams at 11-2. And these are the teams that are at the top of the Class AA baseball standings. McQuaid is, obviously still in there, but, who knows what, they're going to do when they finally get to the Section 5 play. They've had a couple losses. So Schroeder and Hilton, 2 behemoths on a collision course for a great game on the 10th next week.
Where's that game at?
That game, I did not write that down, Carl. You caught me off guard. So start talking about some more words, and I'm going to look up where this game is being played.
The reason why I was wondering that is that these 2 teams are like kind of far apart. And I'm thinking like how I was in high school with them bar games where I got to drive 40, 50 minutes to go to the game. That'd be kind of annoying, especially when it's a big game and now you got things going on in your head. If it's at Hilton, man, the Hilton ain't no easy drive to get to. That's a home field advantage right there. Also,
it's at Schroeder. Schroeder under the lights, 7:15. Under the lights.
Well, yeah, that might be a good one. You know what I'm thinking? And for those at home, I'm sorry I'm going here. It remind me all the IG pictures that these kids can get under the lights, nice little light in the background, dark. Man, come on. These kids are excited for this one. Forget game of the week. These kids are going to be posting this one all over social media with all the great background and contrast for this game for sure.
Exactly. That'll be under the lights. Always a good time. So that'll do it for us tonight here on the High School Huddle. We will be back next week, our last show before the PGA Championship, where we go into hibernation and we only eat, sleep, breathe. Literally, Thad's going to be sleeping at the golf course, PGA Championship golf. So after that, we'll be back. But until then, for Carl Jones, I am AJ Feldman. It is now time to break the huddle, and we will see you next time.